Huge explosions are reported in Yemen as Israeli warplanes hit strategic targets occupied by the Houthi rebels. This is Israel's first response to the attack on Tel Aviv by a Houthi-launched drone that killed one person and wounded several others on Friday morning. In this report, we will go through minute-by-minute details of Operation Long Arm, as Israel's retaliatory strike was called. There's no doubt that it will change the strategic equation in the Middle East. Already on Sunday morning, the IDF intercepted a missile fired by the Houthis at the Red Sea resort city of Eilat, and that might be just the beginning. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken warned that Iran is about 2 weeks from full nuclear capability and will break down what that means. Also, over the weekend, the IDF eliminated a senior Hezbollah official, Ali Jafar Matuk, commander of the Radwan force, and the IDF continued to pound Hezbollah weapon storage facilities and other positions in southern Lebanon. In the Gaza Strip, the IDF raided the UNRWA headquarters and high-raised buildings that served as a Hamas terror headquarters in the city, resulting in the elimination of over 150 terrorists. There's a lot, so let's dive into the details. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your Boots on the Ground report about what is happening in Israel on the 289th day of the war against Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, and the Shiite militias in Syria and Iraq. It is very important to understand that behind all of these terrorist groups and militias is Iran. We start today's reports in Yemen, where on Saturday afternoon, huge fireballs lit up the skies in the port city of Hudaydah in the western part of the country. The Israeli strike, which was in retaliation for a Houthi drone strike that killed one civilian and wounded several others in Tel Aviv, in Israel, on Friday morning, destroyed the main fuel pipeline controlled by the Houthis, as well as other energy infrastructures. The IDF, which took responsibility for the attack about an hour and a half after it was carried out, added that the Israeli defense system is strong and that there is no change in the directives of the Home Front Command, but emphasized that the defense is not airtight. The IDF statement also clarified that this attack was in response to hundreds of attacks against the State of Israel in recent months, aimed at energy infrastructure and the port facilities which were used by the Houthis to import weapons from Iran. In response to reports in Arab media portals that the United States and British aircrafts took part in the strike, American officials were quick to point out that Israel acted alone. Israeli officials also said that they had notified the United States before carrying out the attack. So let's dive through how the operation was carried out and what preceded it. To start out with, this attack sends a message to everyone in the region, both our friends and our enemies, that the IDF can strike very far away. In this case, 1,800 kilometers from home, from the Jewish state. This strike reportedly included dozens of F-16s and F-35 jet fighters, F-15 heavy bombers, and aerial refueling tankers. Helicopters from the 669 reconnaissance units were also on station to rescue any pilots if their planes were damaged in the battle and had to be abandoned. Electronic warfare aircrafts were also on station at high altitudes to monitor the situation and coordinate the attack. It was a highly complex operation, probably the most complex that was carried out by the Israeli Air Force in many years. The target of these strikes was the port city of Hudaydah, the largest gateway in and out of Yemen that is controlled by the Houthi rebels. Although it is widely acknowledged that this port was used by the Iranians to send weapons into Yemen, the United States and other Western countries avoided hitting it because it is also used to send humanitarian aid into Yemen itself. However, there are two other ports in Yemen that are used for this purpose, and Israeli officials said that the strategic benefits of hitting the Houthi-controlled energy and economic infrastructure in Hudaydah outweighed the risks. The plan began to unfold on early Saturday morning, when approval for the attack was given by the Defense Minister Yoav Gallant and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The Nachshon aerial reconnaissance and electronic warfare aircraft were the first two to take off, heading to their stations high above the battlefield. The helicopters from the 669 unit launched next in order to be available for any rescues that might be necessary. A few hours later, after they had been armed and fitted with external fuel tanks to enable them to stay in the air for an extended period, the fighter jets were launched. Around the same time, the aerial refueling planes also took off. The flight from Israel to Yemen took several hours, and the attacking aircrafts were required to fly at low altitudes to avoid radar detection. When they arrived in the skies of Hudaydah, they wasted no time but quickly hit 12 targets, including fuel storage facilities and refineries. After hitting their assigned targets, the Israeli aircraft immediately began the long journey home. No Israeli aircraft were damaged during the operation, and all returned safely to their bases in the Jewish state. The videos and pictures of this port in western Yemen on fire were flashed all over the world, bringing attention once again to the Middle East. Now, let's take a look at some of the strategic implications of this Israeli attack. The port of Hudaydah was the center of massive criminal smuggling operations, which the Houthis used to bring in an estimated amount of $1.8 billion a year in revenue. Most of that money is now lost to them, and it won't be easy to replace. However, the Houthis are putting out statements saying that they're not intimidated by this attack. However, there are images from the city of Sana'a, the capital of Yemen, which the Houthis also control, of long lines of gas stations and other indications that the civilian population understands the severity of the blow the Houthis have suffered. A spokesman of the Houthis have issued a statement warning of a ferocious response to this attack, saying that the Israeli enemy launched a brutal aggression this evening against the Hudaydah district and hit the power plant that supplies electricity to the area. We will respond to these attacks and will not hesitate to hit vital targets in Israel. The Jaffa, Tel Aviv area is an unsafe area. This certainly is not an ideal threat, as the IDF reports that the Houthis have launched at least 220 weapons at Israel since the beginning of this war. Before the drone attack in Tel Aviv on Friday morning, all but one of these weapons have been intercepted by the United States warships in the Red Sea or by the IDF. And the one missile that got through these defenses landed in an open area in the desert outside Eilat, Israel's most southern city. It was because no Israeli casualties had resulted from all of these attacks that the IDF decided not to retaliate. But on Friday, all of that changed. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also issued a statement saying that the port we attacked is not an innocent port. It was used for military purposes. It was used as an enemy entry point for deadly weapons supplied to the Houthis by Iran. They used these weapons to attack Israel, to attack the countries of this region, to attack international shipping lanes, one of the most important shipping lanes in the world. The operation hit targets 1,800 kilometers away from us and makes it clear to our enemies that there is no place that the long arm of the State of Israel cannot reach. Early Sunday morning, there was an air raid alert in Eilat as air defense units intercepted a surface-to-surface missile that made its way to Israel from Yemen. The missile was intercepted outside the territory of Israel, and there were no casualties or damage. However, Israel does not underestimate the Houthi threats, and officials say that they take into account that there will be reaction from Yemen. Therefore, there are also preparations to give a stronger blow to the Houthis if necessary. In the meantime, the defense systems have been reinforced and put on high alert. In addition, an extraordinary situation assessment discussion was convened at the Ministry of Transportation in preparation for the possibility that the Houthis will try to attack civilian infrastructure such as airports. Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to report on these developments, so please help us by sharing this video on YouTube and subscribing to this YouTube channel. Guys, I'm constantly being asked by viewers and supporters, how can I help Israel today during this conflict? And I have an organization that really saves lives in Israel, and that includes Jews, Arabs, and anyone else who needs help. Magen Adom, the medical first response organization that is on the front lines. The volunteers of Magen Adom are the first line of defense for anyone who is wounded or injured in a terrorist attack or natural disaster. They are true heroes. Magen Adom is entirely funded by donors, and they need your help to pay for ambulances and medical equipment, training and protective gear for the brave volunteers and more. So support them through the links in the description of this video. Now back to the news. A disturbing announcement was made over the weekend by U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Speaking at a security conference in Aspen, Colorado, Blinken warned that Iran is not only getting closer and closer to the ability to produce nuclear weapons, but has also been publicly talking about this possibility since last April. Blinken added that this latest wave of nuclear threats was prompted by Israeli assassination of a senior member of the Quds forces in Syria. Iran launched a direct and unprecedented attack by hundreds of missiles and UAVs towards Israel shortly after that assassination, but this resulted in an embarrassing failure for Iran, as the vast majority of them were successfully intercepted. But Blinken pointed out that United States intelligence estimates were updated a year ago to indicate an assessment that Iran would be able to enrich uranium to 90% purity necessary for producing nuclear weapons in 12 days. He also said that more recent assessments make it clear that this could be done in only 1 week, if Iran's political echelon makes the decision to go ahead and do it. Blinken blamed former U.S. President Donald Trump's exit from the 2015 JCPOA nuclear deal for this situation, although this is sure to be disputed. Be that as it may, Blinken said that Washington is watching very closely for any sign that Iran is working to produce components other than fissile material, and is also working in diplomatic channels to block any further move, a possible hint of the message conveyed to Iran. We have previously reported that Israeli officials are concerned that Iran would take advantage of the election season in the United States to surge ahead in its pursuit for nuclear weapons. Israel's attention is also focused so much on the wars we are fighting in both the north and the south, giving Iran an opportunity to move ahead with this evil plot to build the ultimate doomsday weapon. Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to update you on this topic, so please continue to share the truth by subscribing to this YouTube channel. And if you'd like to receive more videos from Israel, please consider making a financial donation to www.tbn.org/Israel or click the donate button on YouTube. Switching our attention now to the ongoing conflict in the Gaza Strip. The IDF spokesman announced over the weekend that the combat teams of the Alexandroni and Chazen Brigades, Division 99, operated this week in the heart of Gaza City. The forces raided a Hamas training area, which is located inside the UNRWA headquarters in the city, and conducted searches in the various buildings. During the searches, and with intelligence guidance, the IDF troops raided a building where terrorists had barricaded themselves in, as well as high-rise buildings containing weapons, ammunition, and various military equipment related to the Hamas Naval Commando. In addition, a treasure trove of intelligence materials were also captured and will be used to plan the next IDF operation. The IDF spokesperson's office said that in the last week, approximately 150 terrorists have been eliminated and large numbers of tunnels, bunkers, weapons, and other terrorist positions were destroyed. Finally, let's take a look at Israel's northern border, where fierce battles continued over the weekend, even as the events in Yemen were absorbing most of the attention. Saturday saw IDF strikes on Hezbollah targets in the areas between the towns of Adlon and El Haraib, about 30 kilometers north of the Israeli-Lebanese border. Sources told the Saudi TV channel El Hadid that Israel attacked a missile depot in the Adom area. Besides the attack in the Adom and El Harib areas, Lebanon also reported attacks in the south of the country, in the settlement of Majdal, in the Tzur area, and in other places. On the Israeli side of the border, during the evening hours yesterday, alarms were activated in the Golan Heights and other parts of the Galilee, where 2 IDF soldiers were moderately wounded by rocket strikes in the Zamora settlement area. Sunday morning saw additional rockets and UAV attacks into the Israeli territory. We will continue to update you on this subject, so please continue to spread the truth. Take a minute to click the follow button and subscribe to this YouTube channel, and unite us in prayer for this situation. Finally, there is a story from the international relations front. On Friday, hours before the drone strike in Tel Aviv, the International Court of Justice in The Hague issued an advisory ruling that Israel's settlement policy is a violation of the Geneva Convention, according to which the occupying power shall not transfer parts of its population to the occupied territory. In fact, the Lebanese judge Nawaf Salam ruled that Israeli communities in Judea and Samaria are illegal, as is the application of Israeli laws in the territories of East Jerusalem. The ruling noted that Israel regards East Jerusalem as its national territory where Israeli law is fully implemented. The court was not convinced that the application of Israeli law in the West Bank and East Jerusalem is justified in accordance with the Geneva Convention. I have my own comments to make on this absurd situation. This ruling is the result of a legal process which began at the initiative of Abu Mazen, the leader of the Palestinian Authority, several years ago, with the aim of exerting legal and political pressure on Israel. It is one of many salvos in what analysts call a process of lawfare against Israel, attempting to use international courts and the United Nations against the Jewish state. This question about the legality of Israeli communities in Judea and Samaria and the eastern neighborhoods of Jerusalem was addressed in the ICJ before Hamas massacre of October 7th. It also included questions and accusations about Israel's responsibility for the situation in the Gaza Strip, although Israel withdrew from that territory almost 20 years ago, and it was under full control of first the Palestinian Authority and then Hamas ever since. The ruling completely ignores the broader context of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, including Hamas massacre of October 7th and the fact that Israel is in an ongoing existential war for survival. Now let's take a look at some of the countries which sent representatives to testify before this tribunal. They include South Africa, Saudi Arabia, Holland, Cuba, Egypt, United Arab Emirates, USA, Russia, France, China, Japan, Jordan, Pakistan, Indonesia, Qatar, United Kingdom, Sudan, Switzerland, Spain, and Hungary. Israel boycotted the proceedings and did not appear before the court on the grounds that the court did not have the authority to discuss the issue and that it was a political exploitation of the court. This point is highlighted by the fact that the President of the International Court of Justice, Judge Salam, who read the main points of the advisory opinion, previously served as Lebanon's ambassador to the United Nations. In that capacity, he voted 210 times in favor of resolutions condemning the Jewish state. Israel had considered requesting that he recuse himself from this tribunal on the grounds of an obvious conflict of interest. But at the end it was decided that due to the overwhelmingly hostile nature of the court, this would be a futile waste of time. All of this is documented by the NGO UN Watch, which added in its report that according to the clear rules of the ICJ Charter, the International Court for Justice, the President of the Hague Tribunal is legally ineligible to sit and discuss cases related to Israel. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also responded to this decision, posting a statement saying the Jewish people are not occupying their own land, neither in their eternal capital, Jerusalem, nor in the land of our ancestors, in Judea and Samaria. No false decision in The Hague will distort this historical truth, nor can the legality of the Israeli settlements in all the territories of our homeland be challenged. Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to report on all these issues, but we need your help to share the truth. So please subscribe to this YouTube channel and share our videos with anyone who wants to know what is going on in Israel. Before we conclude, let us summarize today's report. The flames from Hudaydah were seen all over the Middle East. In most Arab capitals, they applauded, even if not publicly, while in Iran and amongst their proxy terror militias, they were angry and frustrated. It is important to remember that Israel did not respond to hundreds of weapons that were previously fired at us by the Houthis, and this attack was in response to a Houthi strike that killed an Israeli civilian. Even so, it was a small fraction of what Israel could have done to the Houthis if it wanted to do so. That having been said, yesterday's attack, however impressive, will not solve the Houthi problem because it is not really the Houthis that are causing the problem. The Houthis are merely the errand boys of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps in Iraq. In this, they, like the Shia militias in Iraq and Syria, also launch weapons at Israel, although these weapons are most of the times intercepted, and so it doesn't get reported on very much. Of course, Hezbollah are also errand boys of Iran, as are Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad organizations. This entire system is operated by the Ayatollahs in Tehran and the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, which also brutalizes the ordinary people in Iran. As long as we continue to spend pinprick attacks against the Iranian proxies instead of striking the head of the snake in Tehran, we will continue to exhaust ourselves on the periphery of the problem and never solve the problem itself. So please, continue to spread the truth and share with us as much as possible. Subscribe to this YouTube channel and share these videos with your friends. And more than that, please unite in prayer. Pray for the IDF soldiers that risk their lives in Israel, in Yemen, and all over this region in order to stop this evil from spreading. Please pray for the civilians that are affected by this conflict, and please unite in prayer for the peace of Jerusalem.